It was the summer of 43 and Operation Citadel was underway. In the Russian countryside, two reconnaissance vehicles met, both scouting ahead of each of their armored divisions. They took cover before radioing their allies, while snipers disembarked and took up positions. Engines could be heard approaching from both directions. A battle was about to begin. We played the attack-counterattack scenario, where the forces arrived from opposite corners, and we fought over 4 objectives. 2 on the central hills, 1 in the enclosed field, and 1 on the edge of a balka. The Soviet sniper had secured the balka objective, forcing the Germans to pull the first counter. The Soviets also took the first turn, and moved its motorized patrol to take the largest hill. The sniper just shuffled over to the tree. The German sniper also moved to a better position and secured the fields. The scout car went into ambush and the first turn was over. Then the reinforcements started arriving. The Soviets had more than enough orders. The MG team and both tanks moved forward, getting ready to greet the Germans. The sniper went into ambush, and the patrol squad disembarked. And the Germans also started arriving. They had just enough orders for everyone. The MG team was ordered to move up and fire on the patrol, but was found to be out of range. The rifle squad just ran towards the hill. The sniper went into ambush, and the Stug sped forwards between the hills. The Soviet commander entered the field of battle. And they got 6 orders. The patrol squad radioed the mortar battery, and the spot around was placed. It scattered towards the scouts. One shell hit the armored car, destroying it. Another landed dangerously close to the sniper, forcing him to hit the ground. The T-34 fired a snapshot at approaching Stug before hiding behind the hill. The Churchill came trundling forward, while the commander just went into ambush. And more Germans came rolling in, the reinforcements being the same as last turns. Nine orders was more than enough. The leading Stug got ready to ambush any Soviet tanks, while the other tried a long shot at the Churchill. The infantry took the center hill, and a roaring engine could be heard from above. The MG team tried to get in range to fire at the patrol, and needed a 5 to pin them down. More Soviet troops arrived, and the roar from above got a lot louder as a P-39 came swooping down. 7 orders. The plane flew over to the Stug and dropped its bombs, but they were wildly inaccurate. 2 small bombs landed far beyond the target and hit the other Stug instead, scoring 2 indirect hits, pinning it. The mortars were radioed again, but nobody answered. The patrol squad fired across to the other hill before running for cover, but couldn't observe any targets. The Churchill and a new T-34 advanced on the enemy. While the Su-76 hid behind the woods. More Germans arrived. And they had 8 orders. The new Stug tried a long snapshot at the T-34 and hit. The shell bounced off it, but left it pinned. The infantry moved off the hill while firing up into the sky. They managed to chase off the plane, but did no damage to it. The rest of the infantry tried to get closer to the scouts to take the other hill from them. The MG team kept moving, firing up at the plane as they went. 2 Panzer IVs drove up alongside the leading Stug. Another MG team was sent forward, and the Germans were done. Another T-34 and a lot of infantry arrived. And the Soviets got 12 orders. Another mortar barrage was attempted. The truck moved up, allowing its passengers to disembark. They promptly opened fire on the approaching MG team, needing 5s to spot them. The patrol moved over to do the same, with the same result. The car swung around and fired era fire. With no more luck. With an Ura, the infantry surged forwards. A T-34 went to join his comrade, and the Stug fired, just missing. The other T-34 now deemed it safe to peek out and fired at Stug. He had no trouble spotting it, but the shell flew far above it. The Su-76 moved into the forest to get a shot at the Stug as well. It barely managed to spot it, but not to hit it. The Soviets then ended the turn by removing their pins. The rest of the Germans arrived. And they got 11 orders. The Stug fired a single shot back, but missed. The MG team behind the hill tried to chase away the plane again. The other team joined in. As did the rifle squad. The lead Panzer IV joined the fight against the T-34 but missed. The other panzer followed with the exact same results. The MG team fired area fire on the patrol squad and their car, needing a 4 against infantry and a 6 against the car. While the rifle squad moved up and fired on the other squad. They were saved by the cover from the car. The rear Stug attempted a single shot at the T-34. Spotting it, but sending the shell flying past and into the woods. Eight orders for the Soviets. First the plane went on the attack, but failed to spot the infantry. With Ura Ura, the infantry tried to run into the Balka, but the dense brush and soggy ground made it slow going. A horse slowly pulled a load of ammunition towards the Su-76. The sneaky T-34 fired twice at the front panzer, needing 4 to hit and 7 to destroy it. The shell punched through the front, blowing off the turret. The other T-34 moved forward to fire at the next panzer. It managed to spot it, but not to hit. The last T-34 of the squadron did the same. It moved a bit closer, so it just managed to hit. The shell rocked the panzer, pinning it, but the crew didn't bail out. The Churchill drove across the hill to finish the job. But standing on a slope, it didn't quite get the elevation and made a crater in the ground in front of the target. The scout transport fired area fire on the rifle squad. Pinning them and killing 1 man. It followed up with direct fire, taking out another man. Infantry moved up to pin the MG team as well, but failed and was over to the Germans. 11 orders again. The MG team retaliated, needing a 4 to pin them and a 2 to spot them. The next MG team moved forward while firing up at the plane. The rifle squad peppered the Churchill with bullets, trying to pin it on a 6. The last MG team also fired at the plane, fishing for that 6. The Stug moved up to the flank of the Churchill and planted a shell in its side. It punched right through the armor, igniting the ammo inside. Another Stug moved to join the fray, and the Panzer IV moved onto the hill to engage the T-34. But the shell flew above it, slamming into the ground far behind. The remaining infantry started moving forwards while firing at the plane. The Germans then tried removing their pins. Ammo low was pulled, but it had no effect, and only a single pin was removed. The Soviets also rolled 11 orders. They started with area fire, followed by direct fire on the MG team. To no effect. The transport went on the attack as well, but failing to observe the target. The P-39 came to their aid, but had no more luck finding its target. Another Ura sent the infantry slugging through the Balka. A T-34 opened fire on the Panzer IV, looking for a 6. The Su-76 tried the same, but 2 more shells were sent flying into the yonder. The closest T-34 did the same. The shell punched straight through, blowing up the Panzer. Something which apparently confused the crew. But not too much. The last T-34 fired at the remaining Panzer IV. The shell found its target but glanced off, scaring the crew. Another barrage was attempted, but the communications fell through, and the horse kept walking slowly towards the Su-76. Having done its job, the truck drove off to safety, and the Soviets were done. The Germans had more orders than they needed. The Stug decided to take a risk to get some results. It moved up to the nearest T-34 and set off a shell flying straight through it. Meanwhile, the infantry advanced while trying to scare off the plane. The MG team fired area fire on the enemy while moving towards cover. And another MG team took their place, managing to suppress the enemy. The rifle squad ran to aid in the infantry fight, while the MG team took their place and fired at the plane. The last Stug moved to join the fight, and more pins were removed. Ten orders for the Soviets. They started with another barrage, and this time they passed the com check. The spot round landed close to the approaching infantry, and a direct hit was scored against the reinforcing MG team. 3 hits were scored, wiping out the unit, and confusing a T-34 crew. The other MG team was unaffected, but the running rifle squad had to hit the dirt. The Soviet infantry finally found their way through the Balka. But their officer went back in to hide from the German sniper. The T-34 fired at the threatening Stug. It needed to beat an 8 to penetrate. The crew were rocked, but stayed. Another shell glanced off the sloped armor, and the crew felt confident. They pulled themselves together and loaded a single shot. They needed a 2-up to spot the tank. The Su-76 also fired, first sending a shell flying into the distance, and then hitting the front, finally knocking out the vehicle. The car opened fire on the visible squad. They avoided getting pinned, but suffered 4 hits and were wiped out. The AA team moved forward, and more pins were removed. The Germans heard an engine and looked up, but no planes came to their aid, and they only had 5 orders. The Stug moved up to fire at the nearest T-34. It spotted a large target, but the shell whizzed past, and the last Stug moved to join the battle. The Panzer IV fired at the tank in cover. It failed to spot it first, but then got a shot off and hit. The shell bounced off. The crew was shaken, but didn't lose their nerve. Not wanting to reveal his position, the sniper just pulled back. The MG team moved onto the hill and fired at the car, trying to pin it. 8 Soviet orders. The mortar spotters still had trouble with communications. The car retaliated with both area and direct fire. The first failed, but all the shots hit, and another squad was eliminated. The now unpinned squad was ordered to assault the German squad, which they had no qualms about. They surged forwards and scored 6 hits. And another squad was gone. The infantry moved to take the fields, while the T-34 tried removing the biggest threat. The first shot slammed into the hill, obscuring the Stug in dust, preventing the gunner from adjusting his aim properly. The Su-76 fired a shot and started getting resupplied by the horse and carriage. Another shell went flying off the battlefield. They removed their pins, and it was over to the Germans, which received 2 orders to the east, which turned into 10. The front squad advanced while firing air fire on the assaulting enemy, and managed to pin them. The other squad followed while shooting at a plane. The Stug fired twice at the nearest T-34, only needing a 3-up to hit. While the Panzer IV moved to spray the infantry with MG fire, but failed to spot anything. The other Stug fired on the infantry on the hill. It spotted them and scored 2 hits. One which proved fatal. The MG team did the same. Scoring 3 hits. 2 men died and the rest had had enough. Lastly, the sniper relocated again to stay away from the enemy, but contest the objective. 9 Soviet orders. The skies were busy, but busy somewhere else. The P-39 went hunting for the command squad in the rear. It scored 2 hits but one victim managed to duck in time. The rest were annoyed and fired back. Not only did they scare the plane off, they also damaged it. The T-34 fired back at the Stug. It didn't have any problems observing it, but needed 2 tries to hit it. The shell glanced harmless off, with no effect. The Su-76 joined in. The first shot went off and barely missed, kicking up dirt and momentarily hiding the target. The other T-34 just moved closer to the action. Another mortar barrage was called, but it was wildly inaccurate. It scattered towards the sniper, making him the only target of the mortars. And he suffered 3 direct hits. The sniper disappeared in a terrifying display of fireworks, leaving only a crater behind. This meant the objective was up for grabs. And its engine stalled. The car sprayed the front rifle squad with lead, looking for 3 to spot and 5 to hit. 3 men were killed at first. Then 1 more, leaving a single man. The infantry shuffled around and the Soviets were done. The Germans got more than twice as many orders as they had units left. The Stug drove up and aimed for the T-34, just needing a 4 to hit. And 6 to penetrate. Another tank knocked out. The lone rifleman ran for cover behind the wrecks. The command squad remained stationary and fired at the plane again. The Stug backed around the hill and fired at the infantry in the open, but failed to spot them. The Panzer IV kept firing its MGs. But didn't achieve anything. Last of all, the MG team hid between the wrecks and fired up into the air. They struck the plane, leaving it at 1 hit left. 9 orders for the Soviets. The Su-76 was supplied with ammo before it moved to a slightly better position. The car opened fire on the barely visible command squad. Two men were hit. And the rest decided to get far away from there. The immobilized tank went into ambush, and another barrage was ordered. It landed in the middle of the German forces, scoring a direct hit on each of the closest vehicles. One shell landed on top of the Panzer IV, knocking out the crew. The rest of the barrage just startling the Stug crew. The infantry moved to take the one hill, while the AA team moved to hold the other. With only 4 units left, the Germans could activate them all. Getting desperate, they tried to take out the infantry in the open, but the MG team was unable to observe them. The Stug moved up to get a bead on the Su-76 in the woods. It spotted it, but needed a 6 to hit. The other Stug tried to host the approaching infantry with MG fire. And might have done more than pin them had it rolled the correct number of dice. The last rifleman just ran for cover. Plenty of orders for the Soviets. They started by firing with everything at the exposed MG team. One man fell, but the rest were hard to spot. On his second attempt, the sniper managed to find his target and score a hit. The last survivor ran off. All that remained of the German forces were 2 Stugs running low on ammunition. With the red noose closing in and a plane dominating the skies, there was little they could do. Not for the first time, the Germans had underestimated the Red Army's resolve when fighting for the motherland. A fatal mistake.